All right, we are live. Welcome, folks. If you are watching we're live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn. So if you're watching and you're here with us live, please say hi. Use the comments there and let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you have any questions. You can go ahead and put those in the comments. We will get to them when we have time. So if you're not able to stay through to the end, which we hope you are, but if you're not able to, and you can jump back and check out the recording. We will try to answer any and all questions that come in. So go ahead and put those in the comments and we will note those down and get those to Tricia, our Google Business Profile expert who is with us today. So go ahead, say hi in the chat and go ahead and start putting questions in there as well when you have them. I am Emily Huntler with Quickly Hire. So welcome to the Agency Hour. The Agency Hour is a space for agency owners to come and learn from experts in their field. These webinars and discussions are designed to help you boost your revenue, sharpen your skills, and fuel growth in your business. And today we are joined by our Google Business Profile expert, Tricia Clements, founder of Your Biz Watchdog. So thanks for joining us today, Tricia. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. First, before we dig in, I just want to say a few words about Quickly Hire. Quickly Hire is the fastest way to add vetted freelancers to your team. At Quickly Hire, we understand the importance of assembling top-tier talent for your business. Whether you need a developer, a content marketer, designer, virtual assistant, PPC expert, SEO specialist, social media manager, any of those things, or other technical creative talent, let us know. We've got you covered. Our platform connects you with highly vetted freelancers who match your budget and requirements, ensuring you find the perfect fit for your team. Our freelancers work with you for a set number of hours weekly, and you pay a set monthly retainer. That's all, really simple. We take care of all the sourcing, vetting, interviews, compliance, payroll, international fund transfers, and all of those other administrative headaches that go along with hiring remote employees and contractors. So reach out to us at quicklyhire.com to learn more. So yeah, let's dig in. Tricia, it's so great to have you. I'm really excited about this topic. We are talking about rebranding Google Business Profile. I'm sure all of us can think of an example when they have used Google to find a local business and it's just not accurate. It's not the right phone number. It's not the right menu. It's like so many different things, right? I can think of several examples in my hometown, and I'm sure I'm not alone. So I'm excited to get into this. This is also a topic that a bunch of questions have come up regarding and past live streams we've done with Tricia. So I'm really excited to jump into that. So Tricia, I will hand it over to you. And I'll be watching the chat. So folks, put your questions in the chat and we'll get those to Tricia.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start my slideshow. Let me know, Emily, if you can see it. Make sure that it's up, that you can see everything.
It looks good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to be talking about rebranding your Google Business Profile today, but I do have quite a few tips at the beginning that is about just kind of rebranding in general. And one of the reasons is because I actually rebranded my business completely in 2020. Right in the middle of the first part of COVID. So that was an interesting time for me doing the full rebrand. So, and also as we go through this, some of the things I'm going to go over that might not appear to be related to your Google Business Profile actually are. So I figured it would be a good way to go ahead and do that. I've been here speaking to you all before, but for anyone that I don't know, I am with Your Biz Watchdog. I focus on local SEO, Google Business Profile Management, white label service for agencies, and GBP Fix-It services. And of course, I always have to include a picture of my little girl Moxie down there. She's makes everything happy all the time. So, okay. So the first thing is kind of why businesses rebrand, and a couple reasons, whether it could be a change in business. You know, the way technology is constantly changing. It could be just the fact that that what your business was doing has evolved over time, and possibly the name doesn't quite match what your business name, and which is pretty much what happened to me in 2020. For my business, I originally started out in, I believe it was 2015. 2015, doing social media management. And then I also included in that was doing Google Business Profile Management. And then over time, I switched and from including Google Business Profile Management and what I was doing and focusing just on that. So it was kind of an evolution over time of that happening. And so that was kind of why I decided to rebrand. Also, some businesses find that over time they've got what they did, 5-10 years ago, whatever that was, that things are a little bit stale and they want to rebrand and change some things. We're talking about local SEO. Some businesses rebrand specifically because your business name on your Google Business Profile, it's the number 2 ranking factor for the local pack. Number 1 is, of course, your primary category. So now, if you're changing your name in your Google Business Profile and you're adding keywords and things like that in there, make sure you do this rebranding process and don't just go in and change your business name, because you do have a risk of suspension. And then if you don't have things in order, you could risk losing your profile. So you definitely want to make sure if you change your business name that you've got everything in order for your Google Business Profile, for your documentation, that it's properly rebranded. Don't just say, well, I see if I add this keyword in my name, it's going to help. It might help, but it's not going to help if you get your account suspended, and it's a hard suspension, not even on the map. So definitely need to make sure that we're doing that the correct way, which I will go through. Let's see. Now, I've got a link here that takes you right to this in Google Business in Google Guidelines for GBP. Google says your business may be eligible for rebranding, basically changing your name in your profile, if you make a minor name change in which the proper nouns and services described in the business name remain unchanged and the business category remains unchanged. So this is kind of, when you look through this, it's just kind of, what? I think the main thing to look at is your primary category remains the same. So for example, you're not going to go in and have a plumbing company and just all of a sudden say, well, now we're going to be a roofing company. Google's going to say, no, that's a whole new business. And as far as the minor name change, a lot of times when you do a name change, you are basically, it might be a short name and you might just be changing the name. So this is a little bit, I would say, kind of a gray area, because what exactly does Google mean by that? Main thing is, does your business do the same thing before the rebranding versus after the rebranding? That's the main thing to look at when you're looking at as far as changing your business name in your Google Business Profile. So when you're looking at rebranding, of course, I went through a time where I was like, okay, what's my business name going to be? That took a while of just kind of going through and lots of different things, brainstorming, figuring out what that was going to be. But from there, you do need to decide, okay, so are you going to keep your same company, like whatever, if it's an LLC, incorporated, anything like that? If you're going to basically just change the corporate documents and do a name change and keep your tax ID number, all of that information the same. Basically, you've started off with, let's just say you're an LLC, you started off with your LLC and you're submitting something to the Secretary of State saying you've changed the name of your LLC, but you're the same exact business. That's one option. Another is a DBA. Basically, you're using that same LLC, but you're saying, oh, we're keeping this, but we're just going to do business as this other name. Or whether you're going to have an entire new company. If you're going to do an entire new company and not do either a name change or DBA, that might be something that I would say you may have some issues in Google as far as whether that is actually considered a rebranding and not just a new company, where you'd need a new profile. So when looking at all these options, This is just basically you need to consult an attorney or CPA, because what I'm talking about, this is not legal advice. It is different depending on what state you're in, what country you're in, what basically also could depend on what type of business you're in. So but these are just some things to take into consideration. I did the name change, just changed the LLC name because I felt that was the easiest way. I kept the same EIN and everything. I just notified everyone of all the changes, and I'm going to go through a couple places to tell you about that in just a moment. So when you're talking about your name change, it's kind of hard when you come up with something and then it's like, okay, let me check a few places online to make sure that this is a good name. Do a trademark search, make sure someone else isn't using it. Check the name availability, Secretary of State, look that up. One thing I want to say is make sure it's not too long. And this one can be a tricky one, because especially if you're looking at for your Google business profile, businesses might decide, well, I want to change my business name on my profile. So at that point, you would then you're probably adding keywords into it. And sometimes when we go through, I've talked about in the past, and I'm going to talk about it today, are supporting documentation. Basically, your documents as far as the corporate documents, your organizational files, your utility bills, your insurance, all of those things. If it's so long and it just doesn't fit on like some of those documents, and you have to submit information to Google, you may run into problems. I do know that I was working with one client, and her business name was so long that the IRS form where she submitted and they sent her a documentation saying this is your business name and your EIN number, it chopped off her business name because it was too long for them. And it's not always the most important thing, because you typically are going to have other documents you can provide to Google, but some instances that might be an issue. For example, let's say you're a sole proprietor and you're doing a DBA, you don't have that underlying LLC to use. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're doing a DBA, that tax ID number information form from the IRS can become a little bit more important, because you probably are not going to have as many items for supporting documentation. So make sure you check that. Another thing is, when you're looking at, I've got here next to make sure it's available on social media platforms. There's new ones all the time, so you can't just absolutely say you're never going to have an issue with it. I do like to have it the same on all of them, but the way things are now, it's not a complete deal breaker. But one thing to keep in mind is, for example, Twitter has a username maximum of 15 characters. So I know Your Biz Watchdog, altogether, no spaces, is 15 characters. But if you're doing that, you could come up with something a little bit shorter, just because it's your business name. It doesn't have to be exactly that on social media when you're looking at those. So those are just some things to kind of think about. And I do have, there's a link for a letter counter. Sometimes it's hard to kind of count how many characters you're doing as far as looking at social media and all of those, the different usernames and all. It's lettercount.com. You can use that. I just find it an easy way to just put something in and see the characters, spacing, and all of that, how many characters that is. So that's something to think about. I wouldn't make that a complete deal breaker, social media, because that you can, like I said, come up with part of your business name. I would try to, if I could, use the same one across platforms, but then again, that's not a complete deal breaker. It just makes it a little bit easier. The last thing, do keywords make sense in your business name? So some businesses, like, let's say we're talking dentist, and you're saying, well, I really want to rank for that, and my business name doesn't have it in there. I try not to tell clients to really change their business name for ranking, because things are always changing, and what's the way things come up in search, they change from day to day, minute to minute, user to user. even what your device you're using. So I don't like to really focus on that. We're looking at local businesses. A lot of times we're looking at that local pack, and it can be important for your business as far as getting those conversions with your Google business profile. So it's something that you might want to consider, but I wouldn't rush into it. Definitely do a lot of research on the traffic the keyword's getting. Also, just if that you think that that's what is going to help. I would try a lot of other things before changing a business name, because as we talk further, there are a lot of things involved in it, and it can be a pretty big task to take on to do that business name change. So like I said, like dentist, having that in your business name can be helpful, but you don't want to pick something that is so strict that it in the future it may not make sense. So think of like how technology changes and everything. You don't want to pick something that in a couple of years that search term is not being used. So that's something to take into consideration as well when you're looking at, okay, do I really want to change my business name? If you're doing it just to put a keyword in there, please do a lot of background research and make sure that that's really, really something that you need to do. Okay, so once you come up with your business name and decided, okay, this is going to work, this is what I'm going to do, you've got to update quite a lot of things. And this list, it's not meant to be comprehensive because your state, the type of business you're in, lots of other variables can change what specifically you need to have. But this is just kind of an overview of things. Make sure that you've got these in order. So we talked about earlier your corporate documentation with the Secretary of State, talk to your attorney or accountant, your IRS, EIN. So for example, I notified the IRS of my business name change, but my EIN number stayed the same. Business licenses, permits, whatever you need in your local jurisdiction to do business, make sure that they have your, that you're going to update that information. State agencies, payroll, sales tax, industry licenses. So let's say you've got your, a lot of times real estate agents, they have to be registered there in their, the state has a specific department and they have to have a license there. So make sure they have the most up-to-date and current information for that. Your financial accounts, your business bank account, credit cards, debit cards, loans, line of credit, payment processor like Stripe, Square, whatever it is that you're using for your payment processor, make sure you've gone in there and updated that information as well. I'll tell you that I did my, I did my full rebranding in 2020. I still occasionally will go online and find something that that I don't log in too much, and all of a sudden it says it has an old business name, and I'm like, oops, that's one that didn't get updated. So you will run into areas like that where just it's hard to come up with every single thing place that you need to update it. So make sure you get the primary things done. Your insurance policies, your liability, property, errors and omissions, that's a big one. And these are things typically like your insurance policy, that's something that I would use for a supporting documentation for your Google business profile if you need to provide that. So that's another thing to make sure you've got correct with the correct new business name and address that you're using. Your vendor, your business agreements, whether it's vendor contracts, customer agreements, leases and rental agreements. So especially if you are a business that has a brick and mortar in place and you have that lease, that is a great thing to have for supporting documentation for your Google business profile. Also, you've got utility and service providers. That can be really important. A lot of times Google does want to see some type of utility bill, whether it is internet or cell phone bill, any of those type of things that have your business name and address on them. Your website and domain. So for your website, I would say make sure that you not only have it, your business name everywhere on your site correct, but that you've also updated your technical SEO, your H1 title tags, your meta descriptions, all of that. And are you going to be changing your domain? I'm going to talk about that in a minute a little bit more. But what are you going to use for your domain? Is that something that needs to be updated as well? I mentioned earlier your social media profiles. Also your citations. So your citations, these are your any type of profile online that has your name, address, phone number, and website. Any of those, I would do basically a branded search for your business, your old business name, and look and see, okay, what's on page 1 of Google, and make sure all of those get updated. And then also look at some of the top ones. Of course, Google's a top one, but we're going to leave that to the very end to be updated. Make sure your Facebook, you've got, if you've got Yelp, Better Business Bureau, your LinkedIn company page, all of those different places. And then from there, you might want to do, citations can be difficult with this, and I would recommend even doing a citation order where you actually order citations and have someone else do those for you. You can also look at professional associations and memberships, some of those local online citations. And basically you want to try to get as many of them to be have your new information as possible. That's hard to get all of them, so you're going to be there for quite a while if you're going to aim for all of them. I don't recommend saying, well, I'm going to all of them change, because that could be pretty difficult. You might want to also do an aggregate where you order basically aggregate citations, and they update a lot of them in one go. That could help as well. Other thing, just to touch on your brand style guide. Of course, if you're changing your business name, you're probably going to change your logo, possibly your fonts, all of that. So basically just want to make sure that that information is, you've got that guide and you're representing yourself in a consistent manner. Okay, back to our Google Business Profile. And so just remember that Google may look at this and say, okay, you have done a significant change. You've changed your primary category. You're not the same business. And because you're not the same business, you need a new profile. So that would be your worst case scenario, because you want to try to do everything you can to keep your same business profile. Since you've already got it there and you probably have your reviews there, you've also got that history there. And starting from scratch can be difficult, because you've got all that history from your previous one. So just take a look at the guidelines and make sure that what you're doing is really what you going to be beneficial for your business. Okay, so 5 key elements in your Google Business Profile: your business name, your business address, your website, phone number, and primary category. So anytime you make a change in any of these 5 core elements, it can increase your risk of a suspension or re-verification in your Google Business Profile. So what I'm talking about here today is basically a way to reduce the risk of that. So there's not going to be 100% chance, oh, do all of these things and you won't have a suspension, you won't have a re-verification. You're dealing with Google, and sometimes just breathing wrong on a certain day will cause these to happen. So, but what we're looking at is, let's try to reduce your risk of having that suspension re-verification. So that's why we're doing specific things ahead of time and doing them in specific order. Okay, so before you change your business name in Google, you want to gather your supporting documents. I've talked about that in previous months on this webinar, and basically making sure your business name and address match, and you've got, I would say, your Secretary of State and or DBA, if you have business license in your jurisdiction, a utility bill, a bank statement, IRS letter, any of those. I like to try to get at least 4 of those together, but make sure you've got that information and it is correct. Video verification, we talked about that last month. If you have questions, definitely go back and check that video out. But making sure that you've got everything in order in case you need to do a video verification to have it re-verified. I've not seen one where you change your business name and you have to have it re-verified. Usually, it's your address. However, it could still happen. Sometimes Google wants re-verification for any number of reasons. So we're making a big change. So that could be something that comes up. So I would simply be prepared. Citations, we talked about that earlier. Make sure you update citations. Focus on, when you do a brand search for your old business name, focus on the ones on page 1 and make sure you've got all of those updated with your new business information. Your website. So this is where you want to take a look and make sure you're doing this the best way. Again, your technical SEO, and then I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But first, I also recommend adding your Google Analytics 4 and Google Search Console, because when we talk about changing your website, so if you're changing your domain, if you're leaving your whole website the same on the same domain, this isn't a step you need to worry about. But if you're changing your business name, there is a good chance you're probably changing your domain. And you do have to make sure to take some additional precautions, because you don't want to go in and change your website domain and have all of your SEO efforts and since you started the website basically go away. You want to try to maintain them. So because of that, what you want to do is a 301 permanent redirect on the registrar level. So that's just something again, a 301 permanent redirect. You also might want to go into Google Search Console. They have a change of address tool, and that change of address is your domain website address. I have not used that tool. When I did mine, I didn't use it, and I did not do that. So, and I don't know how long that this has been available, but that's something to take a look at as well, because you most likely are going to want to keep your site structure. You want to make sure you've got all of your canonicals in order, make sure everything's good. And I would also look at you've got Google Search Console, take a look at that, and also check and make sure once you do the change that you don't have a significant increase in your 401 redirects, your 401 error pages. If you've got a lot of hits to that, see where you're getting them to see what it was that wasn't properly redirected. So the main thing is you want to make sure that if someone gets a link to your old site, that it just automatically gets redirected to the new site, whether it is your homepage or it's another page on there. You want to make sure they all get redirected. So that's important, because you will, if you change your domain by doing that redirect, you will most likely see a 1 to 2 month drop in traffic because Google's going to be re-indexing it. The main thing is to make sure you don't, that traffic is just for a month or 2 drop and is not permanent, because you don't want that. Make sure that when you're that you got that 301 redirect in there. So, okay. Now, so back to prior to changing your business name. So you've got quite a few things that you want to add to your Google business profile before you change the name. Outside photos of the outside permanent signage. And again, these are not service area businesses. These are businesses with a brick and mortar. I can tell you, Google does not want to see one of those just printed out banners up, because that's not permanent signage. I will tell you a couple of examples where we had a little bit of trouble working through this because of what was going on with the business. When you're looking at changing your business name, also one thing to consider is the permanent signage outside. You're going to be changing that. It needs to have the new business name on it. And when it does, sometimes how long does that take to actually get physically made and put up there? I had one business, they were doing a business name change, and what happened was it was taking like 6 weeks to get the signage in. So we had to go ahead and do it without getting this. There were other things where we had permanent signage on the outside, which wasn't the big, large sign that we were able to use. But that's just something to keep in mind, as far as when you're looking at changing things and ordering things and at timelines, how long is this going to take to get done? Another example, and this was at right at the beginning of COVID, a business came to me, had gotten their profile suspended and were having problems with it. And during the reinstatement, I needed to show a photo of the outside, permanent signage. And unfortunately, the strip mall that this business was in was remodeling the entire outside. So all of the businesses in the entire strip mall, the big sign outside, they had all been taken down. So I was able to work through that with doing a video showing the front of it that didn't have the big sign, but that was a little bit difficult as well. So you may run into problems. That one was pretty unusual. It just so happened to occur when they were trying to get their profile reinstated. But those are just things that you might want to know about, and especially make sure that you've got a good photo of the outside of your building. One other thing I want to mention is when you're putting photos on your profile, or if you're providing a photo to Google for supporting documentation, do not use a modified image. Don't say, well, this is a mock-up of what it's going to look like, so we're going to send that. That is a big, big no-no. You could definitely get your profile in trouble and get it banned from Google. You do not want to do that. Google can look at the image and they know that it's edited. So if you've got any mock-ups that you're like, okay, this is what it's going to look like, don't use those. Wait until you've got the actual signage to add there. So you also want to add photos of the inside with your staff there as well. Add a post to your profile, basically saying, hey, we've rebranded. We're the same business, same location, same team, everything. We just have a new name. Add a post there. Add some images with the new information. Update your logo. Things like logo and stuff like that. If you'll want to delete the old logo. Any images that are really old and don't really go with the new branding, you might want to delete some of those as well. But be careful on that you're not deleting an image that is really viewed significantly, especially like an outside photo. Businesses that have a brick and mortar store, sometimes the outside images of the full store have a huge number of hits as far as like Google showing them in the map and results and everything. So I would not just go and delete one of those until you've got your new image up and it's getting shown as well. Google does have a place to put your social media profiles. Make sure you add your new profiles in there, and then update in your Google Business Profile your website URL if you've had that changed. And also there is an appointment URL as well. So make sure you're updating all of that. And then the last thing you're going to do is then change your business name. So again, this is for your Google Business Profile. So you're also, like I mentioned earlier, supporting documentation and everything. But then you're going to want to go in and make these changes, but don't make them really quick. Don't add your logo, change your website URL, and then change your business name all in like 2 seconds. You'll want to give Google some time to actually say it's updated. When you've made a change on your profile, you'll see on there, it'll say that your change is now live. Make sure that you see that before you go in and make your business name change. So again, these are steps that they're not going to guarantee that you're not going to have an issue. They're just going to reduce your chances of having an issue. And if you do run across an issue, like let's say a suspension or re-verification, you have everything in order, in place so that you can deal with that quickly. If you go in and change your Google Business Profile business name, and then you go, and before you do all of this other, and you see a suspension, you could have either a soft suspension or a hard suspension. And if you get a hard suspension, it's going to be off the map completely, will not be live. So how long, if you don't do it in the right order, how long is it going to take for you to get the other documentation from the state, Secretary of State, from your utility bill, your bank statement? A lot of times those take a cycle before they'll get you the new bill in your new business name. So that's why I recommend getting all of that done before you make any changes in your Google Business Profile. Okay, and that might be it. So let's see. Okay, are we do we have questions, Emily? And then I want to, not sure how to get that. Yes, that was what I want to get. So
there we go. I have not seen any questions come in. So folks who are watching, go ahead. If you have questions, post them and Tricia can answer them. If you're watching the recording and you have questions, you can still post them and we can get to them in the next episode that we do with Tricia, because we will have more of these. So go ahead and let us know, and I'll get those to Tricia, but I have not seen any come in. Tricia, what have been, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so I recently, well, I say recently, in October of 23, this past October, I went through the entire process because I had a client that was rebranding. They changed and got all of this in order. And I'll tell you, the first thing, sending the list, I'm like, okay, we need all of these items. And, part of it is like, well, do we really have to do this? And I've had other, getting supporting documentation. Do we have to do this? You don't have to. However, if you have an issue, you're going to wish you had done it. And so, based on that, we got everything together for this client. They did not have a suspension or re-verification request. So on that, when we went through everything in order and did it that way. So like I said, it's not a guarantee that you're not going to have something that you have to deal with in Google. It's just getting these in place beforehand really helps prepare you so that you know that, if you have an issue, you're ready to deal with it and handle it. So
yeah, and it's so much better too, because the risk that there is with your business going down on Google Business, your Google Business Profile going down is, I mean, it has an impact for so many business owners. Maybe not the folks watching who are agency owners and those sorts of things. That's a different kind of business. But for your clients,
yeah,
it's so important. I just saw actually a friend of mine who is a photographer, a local photographer, and for some reason Google closed down his business.
Yeah.
Just closed it down. And he didn't realize it until, he realized, he did notice like, oh, things have slowed down. I'm only getting referrals in. It's strange. Normally I get some calls. And then someone let him know like, hey, it says you're closed. It says you're out of business, closed permanently or whatever.
Permanently closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
definitely, hopefully he still has access to it and get that back and open, because for businesses with a local customer base, your Google Business Profile is really the top place to get business conversions for your business. Really place that you need to focus on and make sure that you've got that.
Absolutely. And on that note, Tricia, another thing that you specialize in is not only being an expert in Google Business Profile, but it's in selling Google Business Profile services, right? So what's some advice to agency owners maybe who are watching this because they've encountered, with their clients, Google Business Profile issues, but it's not a menu item for them. It's not a list on their services.
Yeah, so definitely that is something I do, white label services for agencies if you're looking to add that. But as far as talking to the clients, one of the main things that I like to do is basically show where your business is coming from. If they're your client, you're working on their website, you've got analytics, and that should show them where their business is coming from. When I look at my clients' analytics reports every month, that's basically the number, for most clients, is the number one place that they get their business from is their Google Business Profile. We can see that in their analytics, and also by adding the UTM codes to their website URL in their profile to make sure that we're looking at that and also seeing the conversions. So letting them know that, especially for local businesses that have local customers, that it can be the #1 place for them to get customers. And if they're not utilizing it, their competitors probably are, and they're probably taking some of their business, a lot of their business. So making sure that they understand that. And also a lot of times, business like, well, what is your Google business profile? They don't know what it is, and showing them, what specifically it is. When you look up stuff, do a search for the keywords in their area and show that maybe their competitors are coming up in the search and they're not. So showing that as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
And one of the biggest things I think is the analytics, taking a look at that and seeing where they're getting their traffic from and their conversions from. And so for local can really significantly increase that.
Absolutely. It's so important. I would definitely recommend, if it's not something, I'm sure it's something probably a lot of you are already doing and your clients are already doing, or maybe you assume they are and no one's checked, right? That's another part of it also. You're making a website, updating a website, but haven't checked if they're listed on Google.
Definitely. And then one thing is, like you said, your friend said, well, they didn't even realize that Google had said that they were permanently closed, is, also to check on your profile and make sure that that things are being updated, that you didn't miss something like that. And also just making sure that you know what's going on with your profile. And I do something for clients where I call it my GBP protector. And basically I go through and I look at their supporting documentation. And so I go through and walk them through, okay, these are the things you need to have in order to do a video verification. Do you have everything in order? And try to do things, put things in place so that they are not have a lot less risk of losing their profile or anything like that. And if they have a suspension, they can deal with it quickly. That can be one of the most important things. You have dealing with a suspension in a fast manner, making sure that especially a hard suspension, making sure that you've got it reinstated quickly. And then if it's a soft suspension, you want to be, anytime if it's soft suspension, you're not going to be able to go in and make live updates or respond to reviews. What if you have a negative review? You can't go in and respond to that until you get it reinstated. So that can be really important. People are like, oh, well, I haven't had any problems. You don't have any problems until you do. And so, and things, even if you are, a lot of businesses think, well, it's fine, I haven't had any problems, and maybe they're using a bad address if they're a service area, maybe their business name isn't quite right. Just because Google hasn't noticed it up until now doesn't mean that Google is going to ignore it in the future. So I would tell them, I'd rather them be safe than sorry, because it can be devastating for a business to have suspension and not be able to get it reinstated.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're an agency owner and you're watching this, or if you're a business owner watching this because you're having issues with Google Business Profile, reach out to Tricia. Tricia, if you're an agency owner, she offers her services white label. So check that out, Your Biz Watchdog. She can help you develop a plan for selling services, all of that for Google Business Profile. And you work with businesses directly. So she's a great resource. She's clearly an expert on the topic. So reach out, Tricia Clements at Your Biz Watchdog, and she can help set you on the right path there. So Tricia, thank you so much for your time today and your expertise and your generosity of knowledge. And we look forward to the next one. And folks, for watching, thank you. Thanks for joining live. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching the recording. We appreciate you. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.